Welcome to This Explainer. You know that feeling when you open up your property tax bill, your stomach completely drops, and you just think, where on earth did they get this number? It feels totally arbitrary, right? Like it just fell out of the sky. But here's the secret. It's actually a highly structured, super strict mathematical formula. Our goal today is to completely demystify that property tax math, break it down step by step, and show you exactly how the sausage is made. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll cover the property tax formula, assessing fair cash value, the assessment ratio, budgets and millage rates, and finally, how to appeal valuations. Section 1. The property tax formula. So I want you to mentally picture your most recent property tax statement. Go ahead, picture that final, painful dollar amount at the bottom of the page. Who actually controls that number? There is this huge myth out there that the county assessor just sits in a back room somewhere, arbitrarily deciding your tax rate to squeeze out more money. Let me stop you right there, because that is literally 100% false. Let's anchor this with a real-world example. $3,379. That is the exact property tax bill for a sample $300,000 home we'll be looking at today. It's a very specific number, isn't it? It isn't a guess. This exact dollar amount is the result of a strict three-part formula that involves several different offices and, crucially, the voters themselves. Here are the 3 steps to that formula. Step 1, you determine the property value. Step 2, you multiply that value by the assessment ratio to get your assessed value. And step 3, you multiply that assessed value by the local millage rate. Value times ratio times millage. That's it. That's the whole equation that equals your tax bill. So let's look at who is actually in charge of each of these moving parts. Section 2, assessing fair cash value. All right, moving to the first variable of our equation. This is where we bring in the county assessor. The assessor looks at all taxable property in the county annually to figure out its fair cash value. But listen, they aren't just making this up. They determine it based on actual market sales, real construction costs, and mass appraisal data. They are basically taking the temperature of the real estate market. And just to make sure they're doing it right and following the trends, their office is actually audited every single year by the Oklahoma Tax Commission.
Now, what's genuinely fascinating about this is the sheer level of rigorous training required. Assessors and their deputies don't just, eyeball a house and guess. They are required to take intensive continuing education through the International Association of Assessing Officers. We are talking deep, 30-hour courses on the fundamentals of real property appraisal, the income approach, mass appraisal, tax policy, the whole shebang. Their valuations are deeply rooted in certified professional methodology.
Section 3, the assessment ratio. Okay, so we've got our fair cash value. Now we transition to the second part of the formula. And honestly, this is where your power as a taxpayer really starts to show. The state constitution physically limits how much of your home's value can actually be taxed. It says real property shall not be assessed at a value less than 11% or greater than 13.5% of its fair cash value. So if we take our $300,000 home and apply an 11% assessment ratio, the taxable assessed value drops way down to $33,000. You've really got to hear this part because it is absolutely crucial. That assessment ratio, percentage, cannot be increased except by a majority vote of the people in the county. Let me repeat that. Neither the county assessor nor the county commissioners can just raise this ratio on a whim. If they want to bump it from 11 to 12%, they literally have to ask you for permission via a ballot. You hold the keys to this part of the formula. Section 4, budgets and millage rates. So we have our $33,000 assessed value. Now for the final, and undoubtedly the most impactful variable, the millage rate. A millage rate is the tax per dollar of your assessed value, expressed in mills. And a mill is just 1/1000th of a dollar. So say you live in a school district with a levy of 102.39 mills. The math works out to a decimal of 0.10239. Multiply your 33 grand by that decimal and boom, you hit our magic example tax bill of $3,379. So, the crucial point is, who actually sets that millage rate? Well, it is absolutely not the county assessor. They have zero say in this. The rates are calculated based strictly upon the annual budgets submitted by specific local entities. We're talking public school boards, VOTEC centers, EMS districts, the public library, the health department, and the county commissioners working alongside the excise board.
And here is the kicker. Even when the county commissioners and excise board are approving these budgets, they don't have some arbitrary magic wand to just hike up your taxes. These rates are fundamentally based on budgets that include the exact amounts needed to pay off bonded indebtedness. And who approves those bonds? Yep, you guessed it, the voters. Voter-approved bonds are what really drive these rates. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what we're talking about. Look at this comparison from Muskogee County showing the massive impact of these voter-approved budgets. We have the exact same $300,000 house in two different school districts. In the Wainwright district, 76.22 mills, resulting in a $2,515 tax bill. But over in the Hilldale district, it's 105.49 mills, making the bill $3,481. That is nearly a $1,000 difference for the exact same property value. Why? Because public schools get the largest chunk of the property tax, and things like school sinking funds and local bonds cause massive fluctuations.
Section 5. How to appeal valuations. Okay, we've seen how the math works, but what happens if you get your assessment notice and you were like, no way, the assessor got this fair cash value completely wrong? Well, you have rights, and there's a strict life cycle to the appeal process. If an informal chat with the assessor's office doesn't fix it, you file an OTC Form 976 to start a formal appeal. But heads up, the clock is ticking. You have exactly 15 calendar days from when the assessor mailed their informal decision to file that form with the county clerk. After that, you get a formal hearing with the County Board of Equalization. And fun fact, if you're in a smaller county, under 300,000 people, the law guarantees you at least 3 different dates to show up and make your case.
The state really goes out of its way to make sure this process is incredibly fair to you, the taxpayer. So there are super strict transparency rules. By law, the Board of Equalization members literally cannot communicate with the county assessor about your appeal before the hearing. None of that backroom deal stuff. Plus, before any evidence is even presented, everybody, the board members and you, has to sign legally binding affidavits swearing everything is truthful and no secret chats happened. It is a highly transparent, unbiased process. So let's wrap this up. Looking back at our whole formula, value times the ratio times the millage rate, who really holds the ultimate power over your property tax bill? I mean, the assessor just calculates the market value. The commissioners and excise board balance the budgets. But that assessment ratio needs a vote of the people to go up. Those bonds driving the massive millage rates also require a vote of the people. So the ultimate power over your property taxes doesn't actually sit in some county office building. It lies right in your hands, the voters. Makes you look at the ballot box a little differently, doesn't it? Thanks for joining us for this explainer, and we hope it helps you decode your very next tax bill.